Okay. Well, anyway, so we were talking about ACCD and how you want to run for ACCD,
Yes.
and you want to get on the school board because you want to be able to determine where money's spent,
Yes.
make sure money's not wasted, like
Right.
that $55 million
Right.
building they built
Oh,
on
yeah.
2222 North Alamo Street, which
Yeah.
I know, I think within a week or so after they finished building had already had problems, water leaks.
Yeah.
We would constantly get calls there about little issues with it, just little
Yeah.
issues with it. Doors wouldn't open correctly.
Yeah.
Water leaks, the big one. We had a couple of electrical issues. But yeah, we've been talking about what it was like for me to be a police officer there, and how I could see money being wasted on a bunch of silly things.
Right.
And we also talked about critical, not so much critical race theory. We didn't really talk much about that, but we talked about knowing the curriculum.
Right.
How people should, if they're going to pay their tax dollars to go towards
you need
the
to know
school,
what they're
you need
teaching
to
in
know
school.
you need to know what they're teaching in a school.
Yeah. What I want to do is, if you're a taxpayer for ACCD, you have the right to see the curriculum before it's voted on by the board, because that's what they do. They allow professors to kind of maneuver what they want to. Oh, humanities classes is what I'm specifically teaching, but as an overall thing, like there's a standards that they have to hit in order to get your classes. But keep your political beliefs or your biases out of the classroom. That's all it is. That's all I'm asking.
So what would you think would be the way to solve something like that? To have cameras in the classroom where the board could keep an eye on things?
Right. The thing is, like, we need to. I know some schools actually do have cameras inside of the classroom. And nobody complains about that.
Yeah.
So if we have to go that route, and we do that for
I'd say go for it.
Safety purposes, actually.
Yeah.
That's why there's cameras inside of certain schools, not just in the hallways, but inside classrooms, because who knows what could happen. There could be a fight and somebody sees it. Immediately an officer or administrator comes to fix that up, because who knows how long something can happen.
Yeah, and maybe they didn't have time to even call because the teacher's being accosted, but yet somebody's monitoring the cameras, and we can send an officer out
immediately
there.
out. And that's
idea.
the same thing.
Yeah.
If we need, I know putting sound in there would be very intrusive.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, hey, what again? And there was something that one of my old principals actually used to do when back in 2016, where we would have to record ourselves teach. Once we did that, we would have to submit it to him, and it wasn't like an intrusion thing. It was more like, okay, let's see the things that you're doing good as a teacher. Here are the things you can improve on, and we had that conversation. And when you see it yourself, you're like, oh wow, I did do this wrong.
Feedback
I
is
did
good.
do that. It's constant feedback, and I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
So if we have to do that, where we have to record professors, and I know there's kids use their phones inside of classrooms, and they're all over YouTube. You can see college students with their phones inside recording what's happening inside. There's so many political biases inside of the classroom, especially at the college institution. Keep that crap out of the outside, because I'm paying my money. If I'm paying my money for a creative writing class, I don't want my professor to be talking about X, Y, and Z. Oh, these are my political beliefs within the creative writing thing. I don't care. I want to know how to write, not what your stance is on whatever policies that you may have.
Yeah.
I don't care about that nonsense. I'm paying the institution to learn this and let me get my degree in everything.
Well, when you get on the board, is this something like when I worked with this young girl at ACCD. She's a college graduate, right? She has a bachelor's degree, and she was an intelligent girl. I'm not saying she wasn't intelligent. She was definitely intelligent, but she didn't know a lot of the I want to say the past. She didn't know history, and so whenever I'd speak about something, it would kind of make her feel like I was insulting her. So she would kind of snap back at me, right? For example, like, the Confederacy, were they the North or the South?
Right.
You know, and she didn't know. And then when I mentioned who won the Civil War, the North or the South, she didn't know. Wow. Right. And I'm thinking to myself, well,
how do you not know that?
You have a bachelor's degree.
Right.
Heck, if you're just a high school or you're a junior high graduate, you should know this, right?
Yeah. They taught me about the North and the South back in 7th or 6th grade, or even because that was a big thing. Like, about the North, I always learned about that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I mean, it seems funny. So, as being on the school board, this is something that you could actually talk about the curriculum, right?
There needs to be accountability, and we do that at my school district where I work now. And it's not a negative thing if we need to have administrators kind of hovering you over, not to the point where like they're straining you almost.
Like come in and visit every now and then.
Right, but every now and then they come into my classroom, they visit to see how are you doing. Then they do this feedback where, okay, these things work well, these things don't work. There's no issue. I have no problem with that. And if we have to do that at the college, because at the college, I don't know if they do walkthroughs. I try. One time I did, when I was running back in 2017, I emailed a couple of professors, hey, I want to come and visit your classroom just to see how I am running for the board. So I might potentially be on the board. Immediately declined. They did not want me to see what's going on inside of their classroom. Like, is there an issue? Why I can't? And I specifically requested to see like humanities, history, stuff like that, just to see what's being taught inside there. I wanted to really know, and I was told not to come into their classroom at all.
I think some of the stuff that they're teaching them, especially in history, is their view of history, not actual events that happened, the way they happened.
Right.
I think it's their view of how they want people to know they happened. And then when someone wants to come in, like you said, and take a look, they're like, no, we don't want you here because I don't want you to know what I'm teaching.
Right, like why are you so nervous about me just coming in? I don't have a problem with you teaching history. If you want to teach critical race theory or whatever, if it's in your curriculum, fine. That student can go in and learn that. But if you're teaching in a certain way you're like, I don't know, you're twisting it, that's not based on your standards of what you're supposed to be teaching, then we have a problem. We need to sit down and look through your curriculum. What is the extra stuff that you're adding in there or not? So absolutely.
So okay, you're a teacher, so let me ask you a question. Tell me exactly what critical race theory is. My interpretation of what it is basically saying that white people are to blame for all the evils of society. And you should feel ashamed that you're a white person.
That's what I've heard.
That's what I understand.
I haven't actually seen it in an actual classroom for my education experience. I have not seen it. I work at a charter level, so it may not be particular in that area.
Okay.
Maybe at an ISD, but even then, when I ran for the Northside ISD, I communicated with a parent who had a student that went to high school. And she knew exactly what was being taught there because she would just ask her daughter, hey, what's being taught? And I asked her, like, hey, is this being taught or is this being taught? Or as of what I know, it's not. So I know maybe not in Texas, it's not a very big thing, but I know in other states it might be. So I know there's a different interpretation of critical race theory. So I don't know to the extent, like, because I haven't seen it here in Texas, I guess. So I don't have experience on answering what that is. Because I know in other states I've seen, maybe like in California, if you're a white person, you need to be ashamed of being white. Well, why? So I don't know exactly. It's so twisted now. I don't even understand the full concept of what critical race theory is because this person will say it's this way, but if it's that divisive, you need to
just stop teaching.
Just stop. I don't know what's going on. So
just completely stop it.
Right.
Like I said, from what I understand, let me tell you a quick story. Before I do, hey, remember, guys, the phone number is 210-549-6556. If you call, you could ask questions of Jacob. You could cuss me out, tell me I'm doing a horrible job. But it's 210-549-6556. Hey, the other day, I was, and I made a podcast on it, and this is what I hope really that our younger people, meaning college kids, are not learning, and I'm afraid that they are learning these things, right? The other day, Black Lives Matter said that Utah chapter said anyone who flies the American flag is a racist. Now, I'm hoping that our kids in school nowadays aren't learning that because
little
by little, we've taken the flag out of schools, right? You don't stand up and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I know when I was in junior high, I used to raise elementary and then junior high, I used to raise and lower the flag, before school class or school was over.
At the previous school I worked out, every morning there was elementary kids out there raising that flag up. And we did the Pledge of Allegiance every morning. And
I mean,
there was no issues. No one complained.
But I know they took it out of most all schools nowadays. if they took that out of schools, which waving the American flag has nothing to do with pro-black or pro-white
right,
or
it doesn't.
pro-Hispanic or pro-Irish or pro-Scottish. It has nothing to do with any of that.
Right.
It says pro-country.
Right.
And this is the country
and
of
that's
America.
that's the problem where people are like, oh, if you wave an American flag, oh, you must be racist. I'm like, no, I'm happy to live in this country.
Yeah.
There are so many successful people in this country because of what this country was able to give you. I wouldn't have the opportunities that I am now if I was in Poland.
That's what it's all about.
There was no way. The average salary over there in Poland is like half of what it is here. Like, I would not be making the amount of money I am today if I was living there compared to here. No way. So
what it comes down to is you wouldn't have the right to even question it. If this was a socialist society or even a communist or Marxist, you wouldn't have the right to be questioning and making our podcast.
And my parents lived through that,
yeah.
where they lived under the Soviet Union.
And
they didn't have
Poland.
Oh yeah. Oh, it was terrible. Yeah.
Unfortunately, a lot of the younger listeners who are listening to it, they don't even really know what we're talking about.
They don't know what that
World
is.
War II, guys. World War II, and then the aftermath.
Yeah, it's like, you want to call me, and I've never had this happen. I was like, oh, you want to call me a racist? It's like, oh, what about the millions of people of my own people that got murdered? Shouldn't I? Oh, what if I want to? Oh, we should have reparations for my people who got murdered in World War II. We don't see that happening. We're like, oh, we should be blaming the Germans. Like, yeah, my country's maybe still salty over them, but we don't treat them differently. Like, oh, our lives specifically matter. Yeah, so we just.
It's kind of like I wasn't born and you weren't born back when there was slavery here in America. So why should we be ashamed or pay reparations?
Yeah,
it's not our fault.
To do that. Yeah, we don't do that to the countries. We don't do it to the. Yeah, my country may not like. Also, they may not like the Russians, but they don't ask for special treatment or anything. This is just not the way the world works.
Yeah. So, as a member of the school board, if someone were to say, let's say you and I are both members of the school board, right? And I'm saying, hey, look, I think it would be a good idea to teach critical race theory, so we can tell all white people that they're basically that they're evil for being white.
And my quick response would be, okay, make your own curriculum, and if people want to sign up for your class, by all means, do it.
That's actually not a bad idea. So there would be an entire class, and it would be a class of I hate being white because I'm white.
If you want that, go. I don't care if that's what critical race theory and that's what you're teaching. I'm not anti anything. Go ahead and have your own class. If you want to have students pay for it, by all means.
label your class critical race theory.
I don't know what degree it would go down.
Hate myself. Yeah.
I don't know. It can be a whatever. If you want to approve of it to be in a... Because there's a bunch of students will actually do extra courses just because they want to do it. I actually did that where, I was interested in these courses, and I took them. Like, for example, I did 2 years of comprehension English, but I wanted to do creative writing because I'm writing a novel now, I learned how to write really well because of my professor at the ACCD. I didn't have to take it. It was an extra course because I learned something new and I'm able to use now in my daily life. So if you want to have a critical race theory where I want to be ashamed for being white, wow, go for it. Have that class. I'm not going to pay for it. The student's going to pay for it. So
let the student pay for it.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it if you want to have it.
Yeah.
So
things. Let me give you an example. Things like when I was on the force there at ACCD, a bulletproof vest, give or take, only lasts, and they have an expiration date. They only last for about 7 years, give or take, right? And then they start getting brittle and falling apart, kind of like asbestos, But we didn't have enough money to buy new ones.
Yeah.
And I worked there for, when I got the vest, it was already like 5 years old, and I only had about 2 years.
Right.
I worked there for about 4.5, 5 years, where it was way past expiration before they bought me a new one. Because they didn't have enough money. Right. So being on the board, you would actually be the ones to say, hey, yes, let's give them money, right?
Right. Absolutely. The ACCD gets to fluctuate what's happening with the budget. It's a massive budget. Like example, 3 years ago when I first ran, one individual building with offices cost like $60 million. Like new equipment for police officers would be nice. We're not asking for much.
I don't want to die when a bullet hits me.
Let's take care of, not just take care of our faculty, but let's take care of our police officers and anyone who's there. Yeah. Facilities people who work around the buildings. Mm-hmm. Let's take care of whatever equipment they might need. Let's take care of them. So I know Bruce Leslie used to be the former chancellor there, and it was I'm grateful, and I'm sure half the board is pretty grateful that he's not there. I know a lot of people. There was 2 board members I actually was able to talk to a couple years back who weren't the biggest fans of him, of Bruce Leslie, and a lot of decisions he made were just not very good. Yeah. Bad decisions, and for example, increasing his own salary by 10%, and his top administrators, but nobody else. Like, what are we doing? He was the highest paid chancellor of any college institution.
To me, I didn't know
People
that.
People can look that up. It's the highest paid, and I'm not just talking about in Texas. Anywhere. He was and this is just community colleges. So imagine someone from Boston or New York. I know their salaries are probably more, but they're paying more taxes, so a lot gets taken out. Yeah. But for the amount of taxes we pay, which is not very much, so God bless Texas that we live in a great state, he was making so much money. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember over at what was it, on South Flores?
Yeah.
That's where his office was, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember as an officer, we used to have to every single night, and we don't have to check all. We have to check all buildings. I understand that, but we had to take special care to take a look at his building.
Oh yeah,
to make sure that his building was
all special.
It's like the waters parted the way for him, and I always thought it was hilarious. Like, what makes him any more special than that student who is actually paying money to come here?
Right.
What makes them more, less important than him?
Right.
Or the teacher who's teaching math? Or what makes that person any less important than the chancellor?
Right.
And
the problem is he makes decisions. The board makes decisions regarding what the chancellor usually wants.
Yeah.
If he wants this, and this, guess what? He's going to get it no matter what. Yeah. And it's funny because a lot of superintendents act that way. And it's very strange that a lot of voters might be pissed off or mad about the decisions that are being made, yet the board members don't even care, and they continue to vote the way the chancellor or the superintendent wants.
Yeah.
And that has to change. I haven't seen a lot of negativity with the current one, so I'm hoping to learn more about them.
What's the current one's name?
I'm not even sure. Yeah. I would have to look that up. Yeah.
So, but I know that. There was one, I don't know if it was Bruce Leslie. I remember there was one when I was working the night shift at Palo Alto, actually. Yeah. There were posters all up. You ever seen the poster of Shay?
Yeah.
That kids wear on their shirts?
Yeah.
There was posters of him or her. I don't know, whatever it was. It was a him, I guess. And they were everywhere. They were in multiple colors. They were pink, orange, red, black, gray. Yeah. They were all over the school. And my sergeant said, hey, you need to go around there and take them all down. So, and I told my sergeant, okay, sure. I'm not going to say no to my sergeant. Of course, I didn't take anything down because I'm not going to get involved in that crap. It's not for the police to get involved in.
Right.
But they were all negative. The students had put them up. They were all negative about him.
There was an article I read when I was running for the ACCD. There was a little published thing by students naming all the negative things like, we're paying for extra whenever we want to use anything. We have to pay extra. The admissions office is a mess, which it is still. That number one issue alone is still an issue today.
Just even to print. You know that, right? You have to pay to print.
Yeah, I had to. I graduated from Alamo Community Colleges.
Copiers used to be free when I was in school. You had to print something.
Yeah. And there was times where I had to print out my papers because I forgot at home. I was like, oh, crap, I don't have money on this stupid card that they gave me or whatever. Like, you don't have money on your account. Guess what? Well, I had to... And it was just so complex.
0 for you.
Yeah, well, guess what? I got a 0 in that class or that paper, or it was late. I never turned in anything. I never got a 0 in anything ever. But I did get things late because, I forgot to bring my paper. I got to print it here. Guess what? I had no money on my card because I have my own personal card, but they wanted you to get an extra one just specifically for Alamo Community. And I was just like, what is this nonsense? Or in case you had to have your student ID for everything. Sometimes I left it at home. Guess what? I had to go all the way back just to get it so I can enter my number and everything. Like,
wow.
Yeah, I was like, who cares?
So, speaking of student ID, I know that the students needed their ID and the faculty needed their ID.
Yes.
Right? Okay. Well, when someone would call and say, hey, I found a student ID laying here, in San Pedro at the library. Say it's on the desk at the library. The students, they would always tell us, just tell them to throw it away. Just throw it in the trash. Because it doesn't open any door. It doesn't have security clearance. Throw it away. And then the student gets charged for it because they have to pay for a new ID. They have to pay for it,
yes.
But if it was a faculty member, they may be able to open a door. So we would have to go into a certain program and delete that particular card so they can't get in.
Right.
And they would get a free one. You know that, right? Faculty gets free IDs, but students have to pay for IDs.
There's so many extra charges for the students on top of their books and of the course that they're already paying thousands. I know it's very affordable. Thank God that it is. But there's a lot of money that they're spending on already the college institution. But then they have to get charged for using a gym, whether it's the library, getting a new card, buying whatever that they need or whatever they need to use, like printer or anything. It's all extra charges. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. So. No. And we talked earlier about parking. How parking you have to pay extra for parking.
For that as well.
And how I particularly think that that's pretty screwed up. That you have to pay extra for parking. The police even had to pay extra for parking. Can you believe that?
Wow.
We had to pay. They take out of our paychecks.
Friend. It's crazy because I know people who work in downtown. I know it's unrelated to the ACCD, but for example, I have a friend that works at the Hyatt for 6 years. Continues has to pay for parking down there. I'm like, you're not going to provide your own staff places to park. They have to keep paying. Like, to park downtown, it's at least $13, $15. That's a lot of money for just like a 3-hour stretch. So if you want to be there for 8-9 hours, you got to pay over $20 usually or $25. Like every day doing that, it's ridiculous. So
it's horrible. And to me, these are things I think were waste, and you can probably address these things when you get with the school board.
Eliminate all extra charges to students is what I want to do. We don't need that.
Well, you know that students also have to pay if you. Like it's right next to the main. Well, it used to be the main police department. It's right next to SAC, Tobin Loft Apartments.
Yes.
Well, in order to park in that parking garage at Tobin Loft Apartment, you have to pay extra.
Yeah, there's a parking garage that they just built at Northwest Vista.
Yeah, that's
a couple years back. It was just built. Got to pay for it.
Yeah.
Got to pay for it now. Yeah. So, I mean, everything you got to pay for. And I want to eliminate those extra costs for students. That's how I want to help the students that go there, as well as the admissions office. At a 4-year institution, I know a person who goes to ALU, Our Lady of the Lake University. They applied. They did everything for the student. And then they say, oh, congratulations, you're in. Here's the charges after you submit your classes.
And it doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work like that at ACCD. I graduated from there. It's the same issues this is from 6 years ago. I graduated in 2014. It's 2021. 7 years later, we have the same issues where, back and forth with the person. And the people that work in the admissions office are not the kindest of people either.
Tell me about it. When I went, I was already a police officer, but when I went over there to talk to them because I had to take a small course to work there. To talk, they were not the nicest people.
No. And they need to either have new training or something needs to be fixed up where they're losing paperwork. Get all the information. When the student applies, do all the paperwork, get everything for them, and then send them out like, oh, you need your transcript from your high school. Okay, understandable. Electronically, got to pay for it as well.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like we mentioned earlier on about parking wars.
Right.
You know, Philadelphia. It's stand and wait. And then finally you get to the head of the line. And you're like, oh, yeah, but you need this. Get back in that line over there and wait another
that's
hour.
How it was. I don't know if it's changed because I haven't stepped onto a Alamo Community College in a couple years now, but I remember I had to wait hours to see somebody from admissions.
Wow.
It would take hours. Now, it did get a little better because now you can make an appointment online due to COVID and everything where people now had to schedule everything. But when I was going there, and we're about to go where everything's fully open pretty here shortly, everything's going to be open, but the lines were insanely long. You had to wait for hours. So I'm like, we can cut again, that goes to the budget. If we need to have more people in the admissions office, because if there's only a few people, I know there was usually 2 people up front because there was also 3 people at the front desk but for like academics, for example, but specifically for admissions, there was 2 people. Maybe we need to expand and have maybe 5 or 6 people. So the amount of students you're seeing, let's get through them. And having only 2 people, of course, stuff is not going to go smoothly through. If you're having 2 people go through 3, 4, 5,000, probably to 8,000 students.
Yeah.
That's not going to work out very good. You know, the ratio of 2 people. But
most of the calls we got there in dispatch, I mean, we got calls about everything, but most of the calls we got there in dispatch were about the admissions offices.
Right.
People were always, I mean, there was just always, we'd get a call, hey, there's an angry parent here.
Yeah.
Or there's an angry student here. You know, we'd get calls like that all the time. Like, okay, can you describe them? What, you know, you ask them, you know, was it white, black, or Hispanic? What color shirt are they wearing? And then we can see them on camera. And we would hear the person behind the counter make stuff up. Yeah, he's waving his arms. You know, we're looking at the exact. We're looking at him on camera like I can see me. He's waving his arms and he's pounding his fist against the wall and he's just standing there, you know, just with his hands, you know, crossed on the desk. Right, he's just nice and calm. Yes, ma'am. Oh, yeah. But you know, the description is he's you know, and we would get calls like that all the time.
Right.
And so there's a common denominator here.
Right.
You know, it's. Obviously, it's not running smooth enough. It's poor training. Or there's just not enough people.
There's probably not enough people. Maybe some better training. Like, okay, why are we losing paperwork? If stuff's being electronically, how are you losing it? Maybe you need better people that need to work that have better managing skills. Who knows? Maybe it's the different, because I know some of those people have worked there long enough. Maybe it's time to, and that's how it should be. If a person is slacking and not doing the efficient job, maybe you need someone new there. So there's a number of reasons that we can improve on, but mainly my campaign will be about bringing back common sense thinking to Alamo Community College.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of that is not there.
Exactly.
Common sense is just not
common
there.
sense thinking back on the board, and that's what I want to do.
Yeah. Well, like I said, my main things is as a police officer there, the only problems I really had, you know, besides, you know, the stupid stuff, the only problems I really had was I would always have issues with the professors, you know?
Yeah.
And they would, the issues would be from the professors, more stuff like this. Get a phone call, hey, there's a professor calls, there's a man over here. We had one, and get this. We had one where this lady called female, and she's describing the person. She said, he has rapey eyes. I said, what? Yeah. Did he try to rape you? Is he saying inappropriate things? No, but he has rapey eyes. I need an officer out here right now.
Yeah.
For his rapey eyes? I'm on the phone. She's, yes, he has rapey eyes. I want someone out here. I'm like, okay. We're not going to send an officer out there because he's got rapey eyes.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, but I mean, so I don't know if it's that particular professor is teaching their students these things,
right?
You know, to be scared of their own shadows.
Yeah. So
if you're teaching students to be scared of their own shadows, then you know
there needs to be some accountability on the professors that they hire.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I mentioned this earlier when we were live or not, where some schools they require their teachers to record themselves.
Oh yeah.
Afterwards, the assistant principal, whoever their manager is. We'll sit down with them. Okay, these things went well. These things did not go well.
I like that idea.
Why not put that at the Alamo Community College? And this is not going to cost extra money. There just needs to be more of a college professor has a lot of free time. They create their own schedule and everything. Apparently, I heard it's a great life if you're a college professor.
So they create their own curriculum as long as it falls within guidelines, right?
There's guidelines that the university has to follow based on whatever major the student is going, whatever it's education route or business route. There's certain classes you need to take. But then the professor, let's say I'm teaching microeconomics, for example.
Okay, I don't know what that is, but okay.
That's what my degree. I used to be a business degree, so I had to learn micro and macroeconomics.
Okay,
and I enjoyed it. It was just learning on how stock markets worked and how you see the numbers fluctuate and everything, and how the economy works. Very great class.
Yeah.
Maybe the professor might add things in there or so. So the professor does have, okay, I'm going to teach these concepts, but I have my own flexibility on how I teach it. And that's what every single professor can do.
Well, it's kind of like it's just like the has nothing to do with ACCD, but it's like if you're driving down the road,
right,
and you know a police officer is watching you, you're driving correctly. You're using your blinkers. Yep. You're not speeding. Yep. You're not swerving. You do everything the right way when you know a cop's watching you, right? So I think it's a good idea knowing there's a camera there. As a professor, you're going to do the right thing. You're going to follow that curriculum that you got approved by the board.
Yes.
You're gonna mind your P's and Q's. You're not going to go out there and do your own crap.
I worked at a school where there were cameras inside of the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no issue with it. I didn't go once to my principal. Oh, you know what? That's a little intrusive.
It's an invasion.
No, it's for safety first of all.
You're here at work.
Yeah, you're here to work. You're not here to.
Think you're. You know?
We had to get rid of a teacher because she was teaching stuff not based on her curriculum.
Yeah.
And we had to get that teacher had to be let go of.
Yeah.
Because they were teaching stuff not based on their curriculum, extra stuff that I'm not going to mention what she was teaching, but it's an accountability aspect. Don't teach, and if there's a camera watching you, like you said, that professor is going to actually align with what they're supposed to be teaching, not putting their whatever biases they may have. That's, for example, if I was teaching a math class, but I'm going to teach these extra things about just my personal belief system. Like, let's say I believe in, I don't even know, that this particular race, for example, only Polish people, for example, are the best people in the world, and that's it. Everyone else sucks.
They make the best sausage.
There you go. If I was saying that, I don't care what it is. That's a political bias. Like, my people are only great. Everybody else can suck it or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't teach that. Yeah. I don't say stuff like that. But that's an example of like what teachers can do. They add extra stuff of their own personal beliefs. You can share your personal beliefs, but don't teach it. Where I know teachers. That's how a lot of teachers need to communicate, get to know their students. I state like what my beliefs are. Yeah, that's fine, but don't put in your curriculum that don't drive it to where you're teaching your kids like this is the way, this is the exact and only way. No.
Yeah, and I remember when I was in high school, I had a science teacher, and he was an atheist.
Yeah,
but he didn't teach.
Exactly.
He didn't teach us. I happen to know he was an atheist, but he didn't teach us.
I'm pro-life, and I'm a Catholic, but I'm not going to sit in my own classroom like, you have to be pro-life. Mm-hmm. I encourage people on my social, but that's outside of the classroom. I do that. I do that when I'm doing my political stuff, not inside of the classroom. I would never you have to be pro-life. This is what I'm going to be teaching. Or if I was an atheist, for example, you have to be anti-God, anti-Christian, whatever. I'm not going to do that. Not inside of the classroom. That's not an appropriate place to do that stuff.
No, I agree. It's not. So, but yeah, that's kind of like something that you would have the say so on,
I would have
at least
a vote
on.
Right, I would have a vote on, and I think a lot. If I know two other board members. I know 2 board members that are currently on the board. Mm-hmm. I won't mention their names, but they are friends of mine. Mm-hmm. And there are 9 board members. There's 2 of them. I believe we can get good things to work on. I mean, once you get 2 other board members to listen to your policies and whatever we have, then we can start somewhere. So I believe that would be a great way to start when you have people that you know on the board. And it's not, I mentioned this earlier, people on the board, they're all kumbaya, whatever. Yeah. But no, let's get some common sense thinking. I know 2 other board members that probably have the same line, hey, let's get some.
Instead of just sheep that follow what the chancellor wants.
Right.
A sperm swimming toward an egg. Let me just go and do what they say.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's listen to what the voters want. If people are upset that this is being taught inside of the classroom, they should have a right to know, first of all. They're paying their tax dollars. Mm-hmm. And do what they ask. It's not about what your personal beliefs are. It's what your voters want, and that's how it should be.
So would this be if you were on the board, would this be where regular parents and taxpayers come up and they actually speak on the microphone? They stand there at the podium and they speak to y'all. Y'all are sitting at a table. Is that what we're talking about, though, right?
Yeah. So they have these annual board meetings. I know they have to submit their request, like, oh, if a parent has a concern or a student has a concern, they're able to submit that. Oh, for the next board meeting, they can address their issues publicly to the board. So that happens at City Hall. I just recently, 2 weeks ago, I just got appointed to the Buildings and Structure Committee here in Kirby, Texas, where I live now. So I'm going to be able to. So what my job's going to be able to do, is go see buildings that are all completely torn up, whether it's houses or even old building structures for businesses. Okay, what are ways? Okay, is this an unhealthy environment, or is this a safe environment to have your business? And I'd be able to look at, okay, let's fix up these buildings. So because there's a lot of
cool.
Yeah, so there's a lot of buildings that need restructuring, definitely outdated, and that's something I'm going to be a part of. And so that's the same type of mindset I want to bring. Yeah,
excellent. Well, that's awesome, and that's what's needed. That's definitely what's needed.
Yeah.
So, but before we wrap this up, I know I've had you on here for a little while. You spent a lot of your time here. Before we wrap this up, is there anything else you wanted to bring to our attention, other than the fact that you're announcing your run for ACCD?
I am announcing my run for the ACCD. I cannot file the paperwork until 6 months.
Oh, college, is it in session right now?
It's about to be in session.
At the
end of August.
Okay.
And so you have to wait 6 months. So because I just moved, you have to wait you have to live in a district for 6 months. And I've already looked at the timetable. It will be 6 months. But I'm not just doing, I'm jumping in this race just for whatever. I used to attend Alamo Community Colleges. I see our college institutions. It's what's going on. So we can improve it without raising a tax rate. That's what I definitely want to do. I want to have better quality education where the tax rate does not increase. Also, property taxes are increasing around those areas where those Alamo Community College, out of the 7 districts that we have, or the 7 schools that we have, the houses around those, they're rising. I know they keep saying... I know 2 years ago when they were proposing the bond projects, more money into the school system. We promise we will not raise the property tax at all. Man, I hear that every day because the city does that all the time and it keeps raising and raising. Yeah. So I want to make sure that we can have quality education without increasing that tax rate.
Yeah.
And that should help everyone because
I think you can if there was sensible spending.
Right,
like
exactly.
Like that $55 million building, which is just for show.
Right. If you were going to pay all this extra money, we can look at the budget, put everything that we need to without raising that tax rate, and that's what I definitely want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, and I hope you get on the board because we need someone with common sense.
That's all I want to bring is common sense thinking, and we need that at the university level.
Okay. Well, hey, guys, we're going to wrap up the show here. If you do have any questions for Jacob, I won't be able to be live, but you can email me at rickymidnight@usa.com, and I'll forward any questions you have for him to him, and we'll shoot that answer to you back as soon as possible. Make sure include your name, and if you want us to call you, make sure include your number, and we'll call you when we have another show, and we can answer it live on air, or I can answer it live on air if Jacob's not here. So, okay. Well, okay, guys, this is a wrap, and we will see you guys later.